right, thank you. What a great crowd. Love seeing you all here. Thank you for that great introduction, Stacy. I call her Colonel Garrity because she is a colonel and I was a mere captain when I got out of the service. Dave Sunday, great to have you here. Thank you. Where is Representative Diamond? Thank you for being here today. Thank you. Congressman Smucker, thank you for being here, sir. Thank you for that great introduction. Thank you for having us to your district. And Ryan Ahmed, Senator Ahmed. Senator Ahmed always gives me a hard time because I couldn't get into the Citadel, so I went to West Point instead. And he always says that, I could have done a little better. I want to thank my mom and dad. One of the great things, mom and dad are here. I don't know where they are, but one of the great, there she is. One of the great things about running for office is that I get to spend a lot of time with my mom and dad. My dad was never in politics directly, but it gives advice to me every day on what I'm doing wrong along with my wife. So it's great to have them as part of this. And I want to thank my wife. My wife who has supported me in this crazy journey to try to get our country back on track. And I know you all feel the same thing I do, which is we're in trouble. And so I have the most amazing wife, Dina Powell McCormick. Thank you, Dina, for everything you've done. And thank you for letting me buy this bus. So I must say, nobody was in favor of this bus except me. I was really the person in favor of this bus. And finally, Dina was like, why would we do the bus? And I said, I'm going to get on that bus. I'm going to live on the bus for 9 months. I'm going to see every part of Pennsylvania. And she was not. And I finally said, honey, let's just think of it as a second honeymoon. We will see the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and we are going to see it, every county, every little town. And the reason I'm so excited about this is, first, this is the next phase of the campaign to go make the case to the great people of our Commonwealth on the kind of leadership we need to get our country back on track. We're in trouble. We are a country that if we're not careful, we're going to wake up a couple years from now and we're not going to recognize the America that we all love. The second reason I'm so excited about it is that I get to go across our great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and see all the different magical parts of it. I'm a 7th generation Pennsylvanian. My mom was born in Punxsutawney in Jefferson County. My dad was born in Indiana County. I was born in Washington County. Soon after I was born, they moved to Chambersburg, and I went to elementary school in Franklin County. Ultimately, they moved, and I grew up in Columbia County. And I had a normal upbringing like probably most of you here. I played sports. I hunted. We had a farm. I worked during the summers. I was a busboy. I was a paper boy. I baled hay, trimmed Christmas trees. And sports, wrestling got me to West Point. And I had an incredible experience at West Point, served in the military in the first wave of troops into Iraq, came back to Pennsylvania, ran a company in Pittsburgh that created jobs. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. Only in America could that kind of story happen. Only in our great Commonwealth could you have that kind of upbringing. My wife has a similar amazing American story, immigrated from Egypt so her family could have religious freedom as Coptic Christians, grew up in Dallas, worked her way through college, and has had the most amazing career serving our country in the White House for 2 presidents and in business. Only in America could those kinds of stories happen. But that America is slipping away. That America, and honestly, for you in this audience, I've got more years behind me than in front of me. I'm going to be okay. Many of us here, this is for our kids. This is for you in the audience who want the kind of American dream that many of us had. That is at risk. And you see it everywhere. You see it in our economy. We're spending we have $34 trillion of debt. We're spending $1 trillion a year now in interest payments. Wild deficits. You young people in the room are never going to forgive us for the way we're bankrupting our country. And that is showing up in the inflation that's making it hard for people to live month to month. 60% of Pennsylvanians live month to month on their paychecks. And they're buying less fuel, less food, less rent is available with the dollars they have because of those pressures. We see it in this unbelievable border crisis where we have millions of illegal immigrants coming across our border, posing a huge national security risk, posing a huge economic burden. And we see it in fentanyl here in the United States. Here in Pennsylvania, 4,000 deaths last year from fentanyl. Unbelievable. 4,000 Pennsylvanians. That's more than got killed in action in 20 years of war in Iraq and Afghanistan. We see it in the crime in our inner cities with prosecutors who release people, felons, dangerous felons on the street, who won't prosecute for people who steal less than $1,000. We see it in the kids on our campus who have lost a sense, really decline, lost a sense of the difference between right and wrong, lost a sense of why America is exceptional. And we see it around the world in terms of America being perceived as weak leadership of President Biden, and you see us being challenged in the Middle East with Iran financing these terrorist groups. You see us being challenged in Europe with Russia invading Ukraine. You see us being challenged in Asia with China rattling its saber. And that's what happens when you have weakness. Our adversaries test us. They challenge us. And that's what we're seeing. In Iran in particular, that's the direct result of the policies of President Obama and Joe Biden, and Senator Bob Casey was the deciding vote to give Iran back $100 billion, which it's used to finance terrorism around the world. We are in trouble, my friends. We are in trouble. And when Dean and I thought about this race, this opportunity, we thought now's the time. Now's the time that if you believe in America, now's the time if you believe that in everything our country has to offer, now's the time where you jump into the ring. Now's the time for all of us as patriots to jump into the ring and make a difference. Now, you probably heard lots of politicians over the years, and they've said to you, this is the most important election in your lifetime. Have you heard that before? Who's heard that before, right? I want to ask you to think about all the elections in your lifetime. And I want to ask you to think about the stakes right now. Think about where we are as a country. Think about where we are in the leadership of our country. Think about the possibility of a Democratic House, Senate, and White House. Think about the consequences of continued failed leadership. This is the most important election of your lifetime. And I couldn't be prouder to be running as the Republican nominee to beat Bob Casey to be the United States Senator from Pennsylvania. Couldn't be prouder. Couldn't be prouder. Couldn't be prouder to be on the ticket with a number of other great Republicans who are running to bring sanity back to Washington, to shake up Washington, who are running to get our country back on track. And I'm here to tell you something, mark it today. Those of you who know me know that I'm not someone who beats his chest. I'm not a bragger. But what I'm telling you is we're going to win. We are going to win this election, and I am going to beat Bob Casey. And I'm not going to be the only winner. There's going to be lots of other winners over here. But we are going to win. And the reason we're going to win, there's three reasons. Number one, this is a change election. This is a change election. 80% of Pennsylvanians, 80% think the country is going in the wrong direction. 80%. And the people that should own the blame for that are guys like Bob Casey, who's been in public life for 30 years, in the Senate for 17 years. We have a change election. We need a dramatic change for America. That's the first reason we're going to win. The second reason we're going to win, and think about it, those of you who've been around politics for a while, I'm new to this, we are united. We are united as a party. We are united. We have lots of differences in our party in Pennsylvania, lots of differences. People with all sorts of different opinions. But we are united in the fact that we believe our differences are much smaller than the things that we have in common, the things we believe in together. And we all agree that despite our differences, it's much better to win and replace the Democrats with whom we have 80% of the things we disagree on. We agree that winning and getting the right people in leadership and getting our country in the right direction is the most important thing. We are united as a party, and that's an important thing. We're going to win because of that. And the third reason we're going to win the third reason we're going to win is I'm running against a guy named Bob Casey. I'm running, and in the most consequential state in the country, Senator Rahman said this. Now this is the state. This is the state where the country was born, right here in Pennsylvania. This is the fifth largest economy in America, the fifth largest. This is the battleground state that everyone believes will decide the presidency, right here in Pennsylvania. In that most consequential state, you have the least consequential senator in the Senate, and I'm not exaggerating, the least consequential. Go to what my dad lovingly calls the Google machine and Google Bob Casey legislative achievements. You won't find a single one. This is a man who in 17 years has not had a single legislative accomplishment that you can point to. Not a single one. But worse than that, even worse than that, he has voted, as Ryan said, 98% of the time with Joe Biden. 98% of the time. Now, what's that mean? 98% of the time with Barack Obama. What's that mean? That means he's voted for every spending bill that's given us $33 trillion of debt and $1 trillion of interest. That's what it means. It means he hasn't voted for a single border enforcement step, incremental dollars for the budget until in the last month or two, he and President Biden have had an election year conversion where the border all of a sudden has become important. This is a guy who's not stood up against these crazy progressive liberal district attorneys in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh who have really led the fact that we have crime that's spiraling out of control, record high murder rates. This is a guy who has been an enemy to the energy industry. We're the fifth largest natural gas reserves in the country, in the world rather, right here in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, we're a country. It'd be the fifth largest country for natural gas. And Bob Casey has been no friend of the energy industry and has been a real detriment to the energy industry. This is a guy who has supported transgender athletes competing, biological males competing with biological females in our sports. This is a guy who voted for the Iran deal that's leading to the terrorism we see right now in the Middle East. Pennsylvania deserves better. America deserves better than Bob Casey. And that, my friends, is why I'm running. So I'm gonna bring it home here. I'm getting the hook from my wife, but I want to say a couple more things. I want to say that I'm really honored to be running. Honored. Feel like it's a great privilege. Great privilege. And I want to bring it back to why we're all here, because I think we love our country. And my brother, I went to West Point, I guess 83 to 87. My brother went 4 years right after me. So we had 8 years of West Point. And my mom and dad came to West Point probably 6 or 7 times a year. So over 8 years, they had 60 or 70 visits to West Point. They drove up for wrestling matches and football games. And so West Point was a huge part of their lives. And Doug and I have gone back since then a number of times, but we realized recently my mom and dad hadn't gone back for 30 years. So we took them back a couple months ago. And while we were walking through that campus, we walked past the MacArthur statue, Douglas MacArthur. And underneath it, etched into the granite, is a speech he gave. It's a very famous speech he gave about a year before he died. And in that speech, which was really something that was relevant to me as I was thinking about our moment, he said, duty, honor, country. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. They are your rallying point to build courage when courage seems to fail, to regain faith when there seems little cause for faith, to create hope when hope becomes forlorn. And think about that. We're at that moment where we don't see much courage in our public leadership, do we? And we have Americans, all of us, who are losing faith, losing hope. And yet in that quote, he talks about the rallying point. And the rallying point in the military is the place you go, whether the mission gets blown up or the mission works. You go to the rallying point, and that's where you reset. It's where you get the course going forward. It's where you reset the plan, reset the azimuth to go on to the objective. This election is a rallying point. This election is a place to reset and get our country moving in the right direction. This campaign is about getting our country moving in the right direction. This campaign is about fighting for the great people of Pennsylvania. And my final ask of all of you, my final ask is to join the fight. Please join the fight. The stakes are so high. We need you. Last time I said, will you please vote for me? I need more than that. I need you to not only vote for me, I need you to tell 5 people. I need to tell 10 people. I need them to tell 10 people. This has to be a movement to take back our country. It has to be a movement where you believe when you wake up every morning that your life depends on what happens. And it does. Thank you very much.